to talk about our healthy baby, Elaine.
The Buckster.
I'm telling you, being pregnant and getting pregnant has been kind of crazy. So we're here to talk a little bit about our pregnancy story. So, babe, why don't you tell everyone how we got pregnant?
You know, I think they get like how we got pregnant.
Oh.
We went about 2 years, man, without anything, not even a scare. And
Not even a scare.
And when we found out and we went in for the initial ultrasound, we were expecting, like, you know, the little squiggly lines. Oh, I can't tell what that is.
Right.
No, that was a baby. Like, you could clearly see a head, everything, like everything had formed. And my wife's response, I'm sure you've heard it, but yeah.
We have the clip.
We
can play the clip.
So that is kind of our story. So yeah. What's your version, honey?
So my version is, again, we did not know that we were pregnant because we had never had a scare. We thought we were both great. Some way, somehow, Dondrei, you did a okie doke.
Not a pappy.
I don't know what you did, but I remember I was feeling so depressed, and I had only experienced true deep depression like one other time in my life. So I knew what it felt like. And I was like, oh, I think I'm getting depressed. But I could feel like my hormones were off because there was nothing to be depressed about. And I was like, that's not me. And this was about 2 weeks after my sister's graduation. So I was like, well, let me go to the doctor because I feel like something's wrong with my hormones. So I went to my lady doctor and I got them to run all kinds of tests and stuff on me. And when she called me back, the last thing I was thinking was I was gonna be pregnant. So I was like, okay, hey girl, what's up? Mind you, I was on air at this time, so I was calling this nurse back between being on air. So
I'm just at work, like thinking everything's all good. I knew she had been feeling weird, but
yeah,
she wasn't throwing up or anything like that. Like, it was literally, she was chilling.
Right. So I get the call, the nurse was like, Miss Lyons, so everything else looks good, but do you know that you're pregnant? And I was like, what the heck? Mind you, I had to go back on air and act like nothing was wrong. I hung up with her after scheduling my next follow-up appointment to do a blood test because I didn't believe her. And I called Dondrei, and my initial reaction, like when I first found out, I was kind of happy, but then it set in over the course of 60 seconds, and I called Dondrei and I was like, Dondrei, she said that I am pregnant.
We already had a plan to get pregnant in 2025.
Right.
But not like to already have the baby in 2025.
I was shocked, Dondrei was shocked. And I know that when we found out, honestly, the first few weeks of us finding out, I was so depressed. I was so sad because I was like, it threw a monkey wrench in my plans. And again, I was thinking as a person that was, not prepared to be a parent. I was just like thinking of a young professional, and I was like, oh my God, my career, what am I gonna do? Blah, blah, blah.
All real questions, all real things to think about. And of course, coming from how we grew up, it felt like we were 16 and pregnant.
Right. It literally felt like a teen pregnancy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, when are you gonna tell your mom? And are we gonna tell anybody? Are we gonna announce it? And like we was just like, no questions right now. Like, let's just be. And it was hard for me because I'm like, well, I want to be excited because I want her to know, like, I'm not worried or going anywhere, anything like that. Like, I want her to know. And plus, we had already been married. Like, we've been married at this point. And
married.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go to Mexico for our destination ceremony, but we had already been married for a while. So it was like, okay, here we go. But I had to dial that back and respect my wife's feelings because I want her to wrap her head around things too.
Well, I couldn't even hide the depression though. I was like in bed I had to take off a few days, and I was like in bed. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to do anything. I knew that we were going to get pregnant, right? Because before I came to Oklahoma, God gave me a dream. I had a dream that I was going to come to Oklahoma, I was going to get married, and that I was going to have a baby girl. I just didn't know the timeline of that. See, that's where he mess you up at. He tell you what's gonna happen, but he don't tell you the timeline.
And these are real things. Like she
Yes.
has a journal entry post-dated, like all of that stuff from before she was ever even here. Like
Right.
before we had started dating, all of that stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
Before him, before Oklahoma, before anything. So I already knew that it was just me coming to terms with the timeline. You actually helped me realize that, you know, there are people that are struggling right now for their first child. And the fact that we didn't even know shows how much of a divine blessing this is.
Yes. And you know, I got to hear some of those stories, like we got to hear some of those stories from some of our friends, like, you know, this is a process we had to go through. Like, it takes a toll on you mentally, especially when you feel like you're ready. Like, for the most part, Kayla had a very smooth pregnancy. We saw instantly in that moment, well, I said I saw that first, and that's something I brought to my wife's attention. Like, it's a blessing that it happened so easy.
So, like, what advice would you give to a soon-to-be father that is trying to deal with his wife's emotions, you know, behind being pregnant?
My advice for men who, you know, you've went through that process, you feel as though you've checked those boxes, because I know we like our list. I would say take it in, journal about it, write it out, talk about it like with yourself, and, you know, give it time. That's really all you can do. At the end of the day, you got to understand, like, going into something like this for the first time, you know, we don't know the changes that are going to take place in your body. So go and get The Expectant Father. This is a book by Armin A. Brock. The Expectant Father, The Ultimate Guide for Dads to Be. This book literally breaks it down. It has all of these little red marks to mark off like where you are in the pregnancy. What my wife is going through, a note for deployed dads, like there's something in here for everybody. What's going on with your partner physically, emotionally, what's going on with the baby, what's going on with you.
Right.
It's got little illustrations in there and stuff. Panic, nesting, like these are all things that we're going through. Sex again, birth plans, like it really helps you get through that process and kind of educate yourself so that you don't feel so lost. And then they have a same book, same authors, The New Father, A Dad's Guide to First Year. Then you have The New Father, A Dad's Guide to the Toddler Years, 12 through 36 months. So it's not like a read all, like everyday kind of book. Like you can literally read it as you guys check off those time periods. So yeah, that's my advice to them. Like take it slow, educate yourself, cool yourself down, because you have to give her time to process this stuff. Like it's a lot to be having that first baby, and you know, yeah.
I love that. That book has been so good. And when we read the book, it's like it's accurate. So that book is good for dads, and it's good for me to know too, because I get a chance to see what he is going through, some feelings that he may have. So it kind of gives us a look into each other's brains. I have 3 big tips for moms that I feel like helped us. The first one, waiting to tell family. Like once you get pregnant, it is a very sensitive time, especially within the first, 8 to 10 weeks, because anything can happen. So if you don't want to tell people, don't tell people, including mom, dad, Aunt Shirley, Uncle Tim. Like you're not obligated to share what's going on with your body and your household with anybody else. If you want to, that is perfect. But if you need some time, take your time.
I think we waited until month 3 to even tell your parents, right?
We did. That was big for us. It gave us time to process, to figure out how we wanted to handle the situation, get our thoughts together, our spirits together before bringing in any other opinions, fears. We didn't want that, so we did wait to tell people.
Again, you have the right to privacy in your marriage.
Also, I would walk every day or do something that you love every single day, because you have to maintain your sense of self during the pregnancy. That's something that really helped me. Like, I loved walking, I loved exercising, and even though I couldn't be on the cycle bike and be a cycle angel as I was before I got pregnant, still maintaining like a sense of routine and doing the things that I loved helped me not to be overcome with, you know, your hormones, they shift and then your head can be all messed up. So it kept me honestly out of depression, continuing to do that. And because I left my job the month after I found out I was pregnant, I needed a sense of like get up and go. So keeping a routine helped me not to fall into depression.
And even that psychologically for, you know, a woman with a master's degree, like who loves her job, who loves the way she works and all of that, even if things, you know, go in a different direction. One of the things we had to really ask ourselves is, and like not thinking why me or nothing like that, it's more so, okay, who is this baby supposed to be?
Right.
Like, what do I need to do? Like, God has chosen us at this time to become parents in this together.
That reminds me of that social media video where the guy, you know, he was excited that he was pregnant, him and his wife were pregnant, and he looked out and he saw their bed on the floor, their TV on the floor. Like, they were young professionals, but they were just living as young professionals who were just recently married, not a care in the world. And he was looking out at what he had and what was around them and saying like, oh, I'm not ready, I don't know what to do. And he said that God reminded him that God does not look at what's around you to determine if you're ready. He looks what's inside of you to determine if you're ready.
With that, before you start like listing out all the equations and quadratics and all of that, like just take a step back.
I think that brings us beautifully to something that I want to ask you, which is embedded in my last point, that for all moms, I would say decentralize the baby. Decentralizing the baby means that you have to take the baby out of the center of your world. Like, don't get me wrong, the baby is going to play a significant part in it. You love the baby, so does your husband, but the baby can't become what you lose your identity in. It can't become your marriage. It can't become your spirituality. It can't become an idol. Like, you have to still have a sense of self. And that is hard for most women because now it's like, okay, now we have the title of mother and it's such a big job, you get lost in that and then you forget to be Kayla or Brianna or I don't know, Hayden. You forget to be yourself. Those are my 3 tips for new moms. Like, just, especially that last one, like, make sure that the baby is coming into your life and the baby is not becoming your life. Like, if you do stuff with your husband, now you just get to add the baby into that. Don't stop doing stuff with your husband and to feed in your marriage because you have the baby.
Yeah, and recognize this, like right off the bat, to all my people out there where it ain't easy and it's stressful and you secretly hate being a parent. Like,
because that's real.
That's real. Go to God with that. Be real with God. That Jamie Foxx special, everybody keep talking about, like how real his relationship is with God. Like, that's what God wants from us, is for us to be real and honest so that he can actually deliver what we need, what we are requesting. Step into it and like really take pride in that. Like, you know, God, I'm having struggles with this. I can't wrap my head around that. This baby won't stop crying. Like, find your community.
And so for dads, like, because I know that you gave them the advice to read that book, do you have your 2 other tips that you would give to new fathers that are expecting as well?
Yeah, don't focus so much on finances. You're gonna run yourself into the ground. Like, that's something like I still have to recover from often, because you get this mindset of, I want to give my family the world. I want them to have everything they could possibly ever want and need. And, you know, you may not be on chapter 20 yet. You just became a husband after 25 years old. Like, you haven't even had your best idea or your highest salary, or you're not there yet. You may not be on chapter 20 yet. So take your time and dial yourself back into reality. You got to make sure that you still know the man that you are and what you stand on and where you want to go in your life. But now remember, you have this family attached to you. So mentally, your mind's going to go to, all right, even though I make a great salary, benefits, we ain't never wanting for nothing, I need a second job.
Yeah.
And on top of that second job, I might be a delivery driver too. And on top of delivery driving, I might go do packages at Amazon. Like, it may tell you, like, I got to do all of these things. And you know your limits. You know where you want to dial it back. But remember to, like, kind of include your wife in that conversation, because, guys, the generation before us were workers. The generation before them were workers. It was all about work, work, work.
Yeah.
And that, 18 to 65, the bulk of your life, you're gonna be doing something you either love or something you hate, but it pay all the bills, like whatever. And then you're gonna start living, bump that. Like, our generation ended that thought. I tell my wife all the time, oh, you and your positivity, when I can't wrap my mind around how strong her faith is. Look at all of the blessings you actually have in place and what you can continue to build upon. And then my third tip would be, find something to do with your mind. Again, all of this is mental for us. Mental, literally. Like, you can hear the men in it. Find something to shift your mind away from having to worry and stress about all of these things. Because if not, an idle mind leaves room for the devil to come in and, like, read your books, make sure you're going on walks, make sure you're exercising, like finding a way to get healthy. Or like me, man, I don't own a game console, and I've been playing a little retro football 25 on my phone. And, like, I find peace in that. It's so simple that it dials me back before I have to, start a work week or, do stuff with my wife.
I like that. And I like that advice for the men, because oftentimes you don't hear advice for the men. But men, we are pregnant, but they go through this pregnancy with you. Like, the women don't just need advice. Pregnancy is something that affects the male just as equally. And so I'm glad that you gave those tips for the men too. But I think this has been a fun and informative episode.
Definitely, guys. And again, we appreciate y'all for watching our show, catching the clips on social media, and let us know how, what do you guys do? How was that experience for you? Give us some feedback in the comments, man. We love to hear from you guys.
That's it. All right, until next time.